What would happen if the entire world was plunged into darkness for a week? This isn't a teaser for a new dystopian movie. It's an exploration into a very real, albeit hypothetical situation. Imagine a world where electricity, the lifeblood of our modern existence, suddenly disappears. In the blink of an eye, everything goes dark. The hum of technology, a soundtrack we've grown so accustomed to, falls eerily silent. Every screen, every light, every device that we depend on goes dead. Picture this: the cell phone in your hand, your link to friends, family, and the wider world, is reduced to a lifeless slab. Computers, the internet, television, radio, all our channels of connection and information would be silenced. But the impacts extend far beyond our social lives. The wheels of transportation would screech to a halt. Cars dependent on electrical systems would become mere sculptures of metal and rubber. Trains would stop mid-track. Planes wouldn't dare to fly. The roads, without traffic lights or street lamps, would descend into chaos. And the ripple effects don't stop there. Think about the life-saving services that rely on electricity. Hospitals would struggle to perform vital procedures. Water treatment plants would cease operation. Emergency response systems would be crippled. Then there's the economy. Without power, businesses, both large and small, would be left floundering. Jobs would vanish overnight, financial systems would collapse, and an economic crisis, the likes of which we've never seen, would unfurl. As we move into the later days of the blackout, a new crisis looms: food. Without refrigeration, perishables would spoil and supplies would dwindle. Panic would set in as people grapple with the struggle for basic necessities. The scenario we've painted is undoubtedly grim, but it's not without purpose. As we can see, the immediate consequences would be both far-reaching and severe. Our reliance on electricity is total, and it's worth thinking about how we would cope if the lights really did go out. After all, forewarned is forearmed. Now imagine a world without the ability to communicate electronically. The buzz and hum of digital life, which we often take for granted, suddenly silenced. Our phones, our lifelines to the world, become nothing more than paperweights. Our computers, tablets, and smart devices rendered useless. The internet, the global network connecting billions of people, vanishes into thin air. Without these tools, our ability to connect with others, to share and receive information, would be severely disrupted. The text messages we send to check in on our loved ones, the emails that keep our work flowing, the social media posts that keep us entertained and informed, all gone in an instant. How would we feel in such a situation? Isolated, most certainly. A sense of disconnection from the rest of the world would descend upon us. Our routines would be disrupted, our work and personal lives thrown into chaos. And there would be a feeling of vulnerability too. In today's world, we rely so much on electronic communication for our safety and well-being. Without it, we would feel exposed, uncertain, and anxious. And let's not forget about the wider societal implications. Emergency services rely on electronic communication to coordinate their efforts and reach those in need. Without it, their task becomes infinitely more difficult. News organizations, which keep us informed about the world, would struggle to gather and disseminate news. The flow of information, which is so vital to our society, would be severely disrupted. In our hyper-connected world, a blackout would not just leave us in the dark physically, but metaphorically as well. It would sever the lines of electronic communication that bind us together, leaving us feeling isolated and vulnerable. In a world dependent on electronic communication, a blackout would leave us disconnected and disoriented. It's a chilling reminder of our reliance on technology and the fragility of the systems that keep our world running smoothly. Without power, how would we get around or access essential services? Let's delve into the intricacies of this daunting question. In a world suddenly devoid of electricity, transportation systems as we know them would come to a jarring halt. Trains, the lifeblood of many cities and countries, would become immobile steel beasts stranded on their tracks. Planes, our modern chariots of the sky, would be grounded, leaving people stranded far from home, creating a ripple effect of disarray across the globe. And automobiles? Well, without functioning gas stations and traffic lights, our roads would descend into chaos, making travel a perilous endeavor. But the effects of a global blackout wouldn't stop at transportation. Essential services that we often take for granted would be severely compromised. Hospitals, those bastions of hope and healing, would face unprecedented challenges. Imagine a world where life-saving medical procedures are hindered, where the hum of life support machines is replaced with a deafening silence. Water treatment plants, our unsung heroes in maintaining public health, would cease to function. This would severely limit access to clean water, a basic necessity that underpins our very survival. The ripple effects would be felt far and wide, impacting everything from personal hygiene to food preparation. Emergency response systems, our first line of defense in times of crisis, would also be affected. Without electricity, their ability to coordinate rescue efforts and provide urgent assistance would be severely hampered. This delay in emergency response could put countless lives at risk, turning a power outage into a potential life or death scenario. And let's not forget about the impact on our education system. Schools and universities would be unable to function effectively, causing a significant disruption to learning and development. The lack of electricity would not just hinder mobility, but also put countless lives at risk. This hypothetical scenario paints a stark picture of our dependence on electricity, highlighting the urgent need for alternative solutions and contingency plans. It's a sobering reminder of how intertwined electricity is with every aspect of our lives, from the mundane to the critical. What would a week without electricity do to our global economy? Let's unravel this intriguing question. The economic impact of a worldwide blackout would be nothing short of catastrophic. Businesses, large and small, rely heavily on electricity to function. Without power, factories would halt production, offices would be unable to operate, and retail stores would have to close their doors. This disruption in business operations would result in massive job losses worldwide, leading to a surge in unemployment rates. But the economic ripple effects of a blackout wouldn't stop there. The financial sector would also take a significant hit. With no electricity, banking services would be paralyzed. ATMs would be inoperative, rendering people unable to withdraw cash. Online transactions, which form a critical part of our digital age economy, would come to a standstill. The inability to conduct these transactions could further plunge the world into an economic crisis, with global trade and commerce grinding to a halt. Moreover, the stock markets would be unable to function, causing widespread financial instability. Investors would be left in the dark, both literally and figuratively, about the status of their investments, leading to panic and potential market crashes. Then, there are the long-term economic consequences to consider. A week-long blackout would significantly impact a country's gross domestic product, or GDP. The abrupt halt in production and services would shrink the GDP, pushing economies into recession, or worse, depression. In a nutshell, a global blackout would trigger a domino effect, causing a complete economic breakdown. From businesses to banking, from employment to global trade, every aspect of the economy would be severely affected. The aftermath of such a blackout would be a world struggling to recover from an economic standpoint, with the road to recovery being long and arduous. A blackout would not just plunge the world into darkness, but also into economic chaos. So, as we flick the switch today, let's take a moment to appreciate the role of electricity in powering not just our homes, but our economies too. As days stretch into a week, how would we cope with the lack of basic necessities? The challenge of survival in a world plunged into darkness would be monumental. Essential commodities like food and water would become scarce and even more precious than gold. Without electricity, we lose our ability to refrigerate food, leading to rapid spoilage and a sharp decline in available food supplies. Supermarkets and grocery stores would quickly be emptied as panic buying sets in. The scarcity of food would lead to a desperate scramble, with people resorting to measures they would never have considered in a world bathed in light. Water, too, would become a pressing concern. Water treatment plants rely heavily on electricity to purify and distribute water. Without power, these plants would cease to function, limiting our access to clean, potable water. This could lead to a surge in waterborne diseases, adding another layer of complexity to an already dire situation. The lack of basic necessities would inevitably lead to a rise in crime rates. Desperate times call for desperate measures, and many may resort to theft, looting and violence to secure food and water for themselves and their loved ones. Law enforcement would struggle to maintain order without their usual technological aids, leading to chaos and anarchy. On the flip side, such a crisis could also bring out the best in humanity. Communities may band together to share resources, protect each other, and find innovative ways to overcome the challenges posed by a world without electricity. The darkness could serve as a crucible, forging stronger bonds between people as they unite to survive. In essence, a week without electricity would test our survival skills and resilience in ways we can't even begin to imagine. The struggle for basic necessities would force us to confront our deepest fears and to discover our capacity for innovation, cooperation, and resilience. The darkness could reveal not only the fragility of our modern world, but also the strength of our human spirit. If you like this video, please like and subscribe.